What is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. This is Dr. Hammerstang, and today we are going to compare arguably the two best flagship phones here to get in 2022, and this is the Galaxy S22 Ultra up against the iPhone 13 Pro Max. So what we're going to do in today's video is to go through the key specs and features on both of these two phones, and also to help you to decide which phone to get by the end of this video. So yes, without further ado, let's just get right into it. Alright, so we're going to start off with the prices on both of these two phones, and I will also include the USD prices as well. So the iPhone 13 Pro Max does start off with the base model at 52.99 ringgit Malaysia, and if you want the higher spec model, it goes for about 75.99 ringgit Malaysia. One good news about this is that you can actually buy the iPhone 13 Pro, which does have the same exact specs, but in terms of the size, it's just a little bit smaller compared to the Pro Max, and that does start off at about 48.99, and if you want to get the higher spec model, you can get it for about 71.99 ringgit Malaysia. Over here with the Galaxy S22 Ultra, for the base model, it does start off at about 50.99 ringgit Malaysia, and if you want the higher spec model, it goes for about 58.99 ringgit Malaysia. Alright, and moving forward, let's talk about the build and design on both of these two phones. And what I can say is that yes, in hand, both of them do feel very nice, very big, and very premium feel indeed. That's what she said. But let's talk about the build material on both of these two phones. Starting here with the Galaxy S22 Ultra, it does have a Corning Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, whereas over here with the iPhone 13 Pro series, it does also use a Corning Gorilla Glass, but this one they call it the Ceramic Shield. In terms of the so-called drop resistance, scratch resistance and all that, I think both of them are pretty much the same, but definitely I will still slap on a case on both of these two phones. One more thing to note is that in terms of the design, as we can see, they are very different from each other. Yes, they do have their camera cut holes at the back, but in terms of the design, very different. Here you do have more of these squared edges, which I think is for a bit kind of painful if you want to put it into your hand, but it definitely, in terms of the sides over here, is definitely nicer to grip compared to the iPhone 13 Pro. Over here you do have the squared edges, so in terms of the grip, it's not too bad, but it's kind of a bit uncomfortable into my hand. But it does have the curved edges on the sides here, so it's actually quite comfortable to rest on your palm. In terms of the back design as well, you do have a triple camera setup here, whereas with the S22 Ultra you have a penta camera setup, which is of course really insane. Now, of course, one of the major feature about the S22 Ultra is definitely the S Pen, which of course now they have reduced the latency on this from about 5 milliseconds to about 2.8 milliseconds, and I think that is one of the deciding factors to choose one phone over the other. Yes, if you guys have been using a Note phone before this is the first time the S Pen is introduced into the S lineup. So overall, in terms of the build and design, in terms of the color as well, I do like the colors on both these two phones. Here you have your, I think your Pacific Blue or the Sierra Blue. Here you have your green variant, and I do like the colors on both these two phones. It definitely does give an extra vibe of premiumness to both of these two phones. Alright, so now going on to the next part, which is the displays on both of these two phones. So both of them, in terms of similarities, do have an OLED display, and it does support up to 120 Hz. And in terms of the refresh rate, it can vary from all the way to about 5 Hz all the way to 120 Hz to save on that battery. In terms of the size, over here with the 13 Pro Max, 6.7 inch, whereas with the S22 Ultra, 6.8 inches. And in terms of display, both of them look really awesome. In terms of the maximum brightness, here at 1200 nits, whereas on the S22 Ultra, it can actually boost up all the way to 1750 nits. But in general, I think in basic usage, you go to about 1500 nits. Overall, in terms of the displays on both these two phones, very bright, and in terms of color, very accurate and also very sharp, very contrasty, and this is what you can expect from a flagship device, and that is what you are going to get. But of course, one thing you're going to notice here is definitely the notch compared to this punch cutout over here. It does look very obvious next to each other. Other than that, in terms of the color, like I mentioned, both of them are really good. And with that nice viewing experience, we're going to talk about the speakers on both of these two phones. So yes, both of them do have your stereo speaker setup. In terms of the S22 Ultra here, it's tuned by 8kg. Overall, in terms of the volume and also the sound, both of them do sound really, really nice when you're watching content. Next thing here, we're going to talk about the battery and charging on both of these two phones. Starting here with the iPhone 13 Pro Max, it does come with a so-called massive in terms of the Apple lineup, the 4352 milliamps of battery, and of course it does support your fast charging, 27 watts if you buy the official charger, and it also does have your MagSafe wireless charging and also your normal wireless charging as well. In terms of the S22 Ultra over here, that is a massive upgrade. In terms of the size, it's the same as last year. It does come with a 5000 milliamps of battery, and in terms of wired charging, it can support up to 45 watts. And in terms of the wireless charging, this one can support up to 15 watts, but it does have a reverse wireless charging system, which of course is really, really insane. But of course, when it comes to battery performance, I have to give it to the iPhone 13 Pro Max. It definitely can last a bit longer compared to the S20 Ultra. Some people might say it lasts much longer. Definitely, you won't get a full day use about there between both of these two phones. But with the 13 Pro Max, you definitely get a little bit more juice at the end of the day compared to the S22 Ultra. Overall, in terms of battery usage, both of them are really, really good. And of course, one of the major differences between both of these two phones, Android against Apple. Here we have the iOS 15. Over here we have One UI 4.1 on top of Android 13. In terms of the software experience, both of them are very, very different from each other. In terms of this feature pack, I think the S22 Ultra definitely does beat it. It does have your customizations in terms of your always on display, edge panel, and all this other good stuff, Samsung Tags, and which is a really underrated feature, Samsung Pay as well. Here you do have your Apple Pay, but it's not supported in most countries anyway, like especially here in Malaysia, it's not yet supported, which is of course a bit of a bummer. Other than that, in terms of software, if you've been used to the Apple ecosystem, you will definitely fit it right in with the iPhone 13 Pro Max, but with the S22 Ultra, it also does have a very good ecosystem as well in terms of the Galaxy Buds, your tablet, and even if you buy the computers in selected markets as well. So in terms of software, to be honest, they are very, very close to each other over the past few years. And of course, I really admire what Samsung has done to catch up with the industry-leading iPhone over here. But in terms of the internal specs, over here we have the first time forever in Malaysia, which is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. In terms of RAM, it can go up to 16 gigs of RAM. And over here with the iPhone 13 Pro Max, it does have your A15 Bionic chip, the latest and greatest. And in terms of the RAM management, you do have up to all the way to 6 gigs of RAM. Definitely in terms of smoothness and in terms of the speed, I have to give it to the iPhone 13 Pro Max. It definitely does feel smoother, and of course it does feel slicker compared to the S22 Ultra over here. Both of them, do get me wrong, they are very fast and very slick compared to many other phones, but I gotta give it in terms of the animation to the iPhone 13 Pro. It does also have a better RAM management compared to the Galaxy phones over here, especially even the S22 Ultra. So one of the major last things over here are the cameras. With the 13 Pro Max, it does have a 12 megapixel f2.2 sensor and it can record up to 4K at 60 FPS. Going on to the rear cameras over here, we have a triple camera setup, all 12 megapixel. One of the main lens, which is f1.5, it does have your dual autofocus, a sensor shift OIS, and also in the other one here, the telephoto, we also do have a 12 megapixel f2.8, can go up to 3 times of optical zoom, and it does have your OIS and dual autofocus. And on the third lens, we have an ultra wide 12 megapixel f1.8, and it also does have your dual autofocus. Going on to the S22 Ultra, in terms of the selfie, it does have a massive 40 megapixel f2.2 sensor. It can record up to 4K at 60 FPS. If of course we switch on to the back over here, we do have a quad camera setup, starting with a 108 megapixel f1.8 sensor, and it does have your dual autofocus, laser autofocus, and OIS. We have 2 telephoto lenses over here, both of them at 10 megapixel, one at f4.9 and the other at f2.4. One can go up to 10 times of optical zoom and the other at 3 times of optical zoom. Both of them do have your dual autofocus and OIS. And lastly, of course, we do have the ultra wide lens, and that one is 12 megapixel f2.2. It does have your dual autofocus and you can go for the super steady video mode. So now we're going to take some shots on both of these two phones and we're going to see which one does come out on top. So that is it between the Galaxy S22 Ultra and the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Two really awesome flagship phones, and of course the ultimate question is which one to get. Of course, if you want the best Android experience and of course you want that amazing S Pen, I think definitely the S22 Ultra definitely makes a lot more sense. It is slightly cheaper at the same color variant, but of course if you guys have been used to the Apple ecosystem as it is, I think the iPhone 13 Pro Max is definitely a good winner. It does have a very good camera setup, very good battery life, and in terms of the display and all this is what you'd expect overall. But of course, if you want more features in your phone like Samsung DeX, Samsung Pay, and all this other good stuff, I think over here with the S22 Ultra, it definitely does make a good case. So if you guys did enjoy this video, do click the like and smash the subscribe button down below for more videos like this in the future. Do also follow me on my social as well, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and also here on YouTube at Dr. Hammerstack. So that is it. This is Dr. Hammerstack. Stay safe, take care, and wash those hands.